All right, everybody, welcome into the LFC Transfer Room. I'm Jack, joined today by Louis, Jay, and Owen. After not great circumstances, to have a post-match reaction stream. Louis, you're fresh off the watch-along. You had to, I mentioned right before we jumped on, you had to talk about this while watching the match. I think we're kind of just going to talk about a broad range of things today after this match, but your immediate thoughts, Louis, you can kind of open us up.
I mean, obviously, gutted. It's very easy to get carried away with that deflated feeling, which I'm sure we're all experiencing. And obviously, some people may feel that that's the title over, and we can't compete, we can't handle low blocks as well as we have done in the past. I think we've got to have a sense of realism here that ultimately we're not Man City. We don't have three world-class starting 11s, and ultimately you're going to get results like this. Not excusing it at all, but we weren't dreadful. When we went a goal down, we didn't look like equalising, and obviously that's difficult to see. But up until then, I thought the whole time we could easily go on and win this. Salah's penalty, I'm not sure what he was doing. Every other penalty he's taken for us, he smashed it. Either in the corner or top bins, and for some reason this one he decides to side foot it. Schmeichel gets it the right way, and it's the easiest penalty save he'll have to make in his career. So ultimately, a very disappointing result. But I just don't want people to sort of get too carried away. We just need to bounce back as quickly as possible, really, and just hope for somewhat of a miracle.
Yeah, Louis, you're surprisingly the most positive after having to watch that match on the watch along. Owen, I'll go to you next on it. Your takeaways from that match.
It was a hard watch, wasn't it? I think it's very easy to get carried away, as Louis just said. I think if Salah scored that penalty early on, then I think we would have gone on and won it easily, if I'm being completely honest. I think they wouldn't have caused us anywhere near the amount of problems that they did. But it's a different story when Salah misses and the crowd get behind the team then. They go on. They play really, really well then, to be fair, in terms of physicality. To be fair, we weren't good at all today. We just weren't good. And I just think title's gone now, in my opinion. I think Man City was too strong to catch. I think you need to drop absolute minimum points. And we've drawn to Tottenham, who aren't a particularly great side, and Leicester, same bracket as that, really. So I think it's gone now, in my opinion.
Well, I think on more broad stuff like that in just a moment. And if you're on the Twitter, make sure to head over to YouTube. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down there. And Jay, round us out. You actually caveated your prediction of a win with it's tough to predict a win against anybody. I guess what are your takeaways after that one?
It's the Premier League, isn't it, mate? Even though he's at the likes of Burnley, no disrespect to them or Watford, we've seen it when that season it looked like we were going to go unbeaten. I don't think anyone in the world would have bet we'd have got beat 3-0 by Watford, and that's why you can never say you nailed on to win a game. But to be fair tonight, it's not that we were terrible. We just missed some really big chances. Mane should have buried that one. Schmeichel makes a boss save. Obviously, we missed a pen. And I've got to be honest, I don't remember Leicester having a shot other than the goal. So it's not as if, we've been beat there and not had chances to win the game. We just haven't taken them. But I sort of agree with Owen in a sense that the league might be gone. Not like in a negative way, but the league's that hard to win now. The standards that us and City have set, you can't drop a point, not one. So I think for us to win the league now, it sounds mad, but we probably have to win every game.
I want to follow up on the point you made. Wasn't the only shot. There was the only shot on target was the goal. They had six attempts. But I'm not sure how you guys feel about XG. I love the stat. But the expected goals for the match was 2.33 for Liverpool and 0.59 for Leicester. So, I mean, the chances were there. So I think, how I'm currently grappling with how bad a performance was it. So I guess, Louis, I'll go to you. You mentioned, I think maybe it was Owen who said if they score the penalty, they win it. Where does the fault lie in missing those chances? Is it just a day off, or what do you kind of view that as?
I think it was certainly more of, as you said, with the XG as well, and possession-wise, for the majority of the game, we dominated it. I don't think it was a system issue. I think just a few individuals let us down. Generally, obviously, the forward three weren't at their best. I thought Jota had a good game. I thought when he was in the penalty area, he looked really dangerous, and we could have won several penalties in that last 10, 15 minutes if it had been slightly different. Obviously, that's easy to say. Bit of a redundant comment. But no, I don't think it was the way we set up the game. I think on a different day, the strikers have a better day. As Owen said, we score that penalty as well, and it's a whole different game. Once Leicester get that goal, they've got no real interest in pushing forward. They're just looking to get 11 men solely behind the ball, and from that point, it's always going to be a very uphill struggle, especially away from home.
So now, with the benefit of hindsight, was the lineup correct? That midfield three, I think Oxlade-Chamberlain was kind of poor in my estimation. We debated on him. Henderson, I hated those sideways volleys, man. Those every time he tried one,
a hat trick, in the first half.
It hurt my heart watching those, because I just, every time he lined up for it, I did not have any faith in it going in. But do we have any, I guess, hindsight is 50-50, obviously. Was it the right lineup?
Did any of the substitutes really make a big impact? In the watch long, especially, a lot of people were saying that Keita should come on. Obviously, watching the game, but also trying to talk for 90 minutes and paying attention to the chat. I don't think I always see the game fully. So for Jay and Owen, did either of the big substitutes, Firmino and Keita, did they really improve the team when they came on?
No, I thought Keita was really poor. I thought his touch and passing, especially, total contrast to what we saw in the other game against Leicester in the League Cup. I thought he was a different player in that game. He was like all everywhere. He was dribbling, beating players, going past them and everything. But this game, we just didn't see that Naby Keita at all. Very inconsistent, kind of, in a way, Naby Keita in a Liverpool shirt summed up.
Jay, on the subs, any of them do anything in yours?
No, mate, I said before the game, Keita, you never know what you're going to get. Ox, I don't particularly like anyway. And it was mad because it was sort of contrast to what happened midweek when we played Leicester. We brought subs on that completely changed the game. And today it went the other way. They brought Lookman on and Tielemans, who I thought improved them massively second half. And yeah, ultimately, no, mate, none of our subs done anything, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we can pinpoint the exact reason for the defeat on the pasta. Oh, and I think that is, I don't mean to make light after that defeat. So it's in the title, title hope's gone. We floated it. Jay, I'll go to you. Is this the kind of match that, obviously losing this one fresh off of them shipping 6 against Man City, is that a title killer in your eyes?
It's one of them, mate. There's a lot of time left in the league, but when City go on these mad runs where they win 9 games on the bounce, 10 games on the bounce, it's very rare that they slip up. If they do slip up in one other game and we beat them, then possibly. But it's like I said before, I think it's literally a case. We would literally more or less have to win every single game going to win the league, because City probably will. Maybe by 1 or 2 games they might draw. So I think it's that difficult, to be honest, mate. I'm not saying we're out of it, but I think it's going to literally take every game to win, starting Sunday against Chelsea as well, which is massive.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I believe that the AFCON players will be in that one.
They will, yeah. They've already been confirmed. They can stay.
Nice. That's a big one, because that's a must win. I don't see title's gone if that one's dropped. But Owen, I'll pose the same question to you. Is that a title killer, this defeat today to Leicester, in your eyes?
Yeah, I think it is. I think we have to invest in January, really, to have a chance to win the league. And we're just simply not going to do that. So I think Man City's squad, you just look at it, any injuries they get, any players that go to AFCON, it's not going to affect them, because their squad is just so good. They can play 11, like, 11 players, like, starting team, and they can just win, like, comfortably, probably win the league with that starting 11 in itself, or the Champions League. So I think we need to focus on the Champions League now, with the Anfield atmosphere. And I think that's our best chance, really, going into the end of the season. Maybe the League Cup as well, or FA Cup. But I think the league's too hard now.
I'm all in on the Carabao Cup train, the energy drink cup. That's what I would love to see. I would love to see that. But I think that what would help in January then, Owen? Because I think you guys both mentioned that maybe adding something would help. I think I'll oppose an extra forward, but I'm interested in what you think investment-wise would help.
Jared Bowen.
That's a good one.
I don't know whether West Ham would be willing to part with him, but I think he's an absolute perfect buy for Liverpool for the future. He's not just a short-term buy. I think Klopp could make him into an absolutely brilliant player. However, I don't know whether West Ham will be willing to part with him. Obviously, in January, it's hard to bring a replacement, and I think you could be looking at over 40 mil for Jared Bowen in January, maybe.
I want to run through some of these comments, kind of backtrack a little bit back onto the match itself. Henderson and Oxlade-Chamberlain, is that the issue in these defeats? Because I believe it's the West Ham match they might be referring to, where it was Henderson and Oxlade-Chamberlain who also were in the midfield. Is that where the match was lost, in the midfield? Jay, I'll go to you first.
I don't think you can talk about Henderson being the problem. He arguably has his best game ever for Liverpool in the derby, which was a couple of weeks ago. So I think that's a bit of a stupid comment to say it's because of Henderson. I said before the game, I don't think Ox is good enough to play central midfield. He's not a central midfielder. I don't think he knows where his best position is, which is half of his problem. But I don't think you could ever say it was because of Enzo, no. Don't get me wrong, he didn't have a great game today, but no, I'm not going to put results on Henderson, no way.
How about the duo then? If it's not Henderson by himself, it's the combination of Henderson and Oxlade-Chamberlain as your eights.
I've got to be honest, mate. I just think Oxlade being in the midfield just gives us we're just not as strong. Like I say, I don't think he knows that position well enough. He drifts out towards different areas that I can't imagine he's been told to do. The organisation's just poor when Oxlade's in the team. He dribbles into areas that he shouldn't be dribbling into, shoots when he shouldn't. Decision making isn't great. I mean, my midfield for me is always going to be Thiago, Fab, and Henderson. And as far as I know, we haven't ever lost a game with them three in the midfield. So that would always be my midfield personally. I'd never change it.
Yeah, Thiago was a big loss. He had a small muscle injury. Really hoping he's back for the Chelsea match. He'd be a big return. Salah, his performance today, he missed the pen, missed the rebound. Kind of poor around that as well. Louis, I'm interested in your thoughts. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Salah was the reason we lost, because he has enough goodwill in the bank for this season so far. But I'm interested in him, and I guess the front three. You can expand it as well, Louis. Your takeaways on that.
Just really quickly, because there's a couple of comments following up on that Henderson shout. I mean, as a fan base, I really thought we'd moved past this point. I thought Henderson had really shown his worth and overcome the critics on more than enough occasions that we don't need to keep on having these conversations.
And I do want to emphasize, I'm not saying Henderson's below the standard or anything like that. It's just,
no. I'm talking about these comments and these suggestions that Henderson's somehow at fault or that he isn't a great player. It comes up all the time, and with Ox as well. Sorry, it's gone a bit of a tangent, but I always try to give Oxlade-Chamberlain the benefit of the doubt. And I think that he's one of those players who absolutely needs rhythm, and he needs game time consistently to reach his best. And he's got that with this injury problem. And still, unfortunately, he's just not cut out for the Liverpool midfield. He's good. He can show his best in games where the other team attack us a lot and the game's quite open and end-to-end. But the majority of our opponents are going to be low blocks, counter-attacking teams, and he just doesn't suit that at all.
Which YouTube admin is saying this? Don't hide behind.
But a player can have a bad game, and that doesn't mean they're not a good player.
Yeah. I think on the day
we've moved past this.
Yeah. On the day, I think he was below his standard, which is very high, and that's how I would frame it. There's a lot of, at least in the YouTube chat, discussion on Mane. I kind of want to pivot it to that. Charlie, that was a stinky opinion, Charlie. Mane. I'll preface this with my assessment of Mane, in that he gets into those spots, he creates those looks for himself, which is really hard to do. and him not finishing it does not mean you got to replace Mane. You just got to hope that he finishes those chances. So I guess, Owen, I'll let you give your take on Mane's performance, and I guess you can also make it more general, as January is only a few days away. And you can look at maybe Mane as the most potential for replacement of the front three.
Yeah, with Mane, I kind of thought he didn't have any chances really. He had that one chance, but apart from that, he just didn't. He wasn't really in the game, and he had one real chance, you'd call it. So you can't really have too much of a go at him for that. You know what I mean? I think that's more in the midfield. Going back to Oxlade-Chamberlain, I just want him to go. Henderson, I didn't think he was that bad today. I thought he was pretty decent, average, just say. I didn't think he was awful or anything like that. But going back to Mane, then I thought he was he hasn't really been the same player since we won the league. I think Jay said it earlier. We haven't seen that player. He's been very different, and this season I thought he was back, but obviously not. So it's very worrying, concerning, really, to see that he's very far off what we've used to. It's becoming a kind of familiar sight to see him playing like this, which isn't good if we want to be winning trophies, put it like that.
Yeah, Mane's performance in your eyes, Jay?
Thought he was poor tonight, to be honest, mate. I know obviously he only had the one chance that he missed, but all round in the game, I don't really know what he contributed. That was positive attacking. As I said before the game, he's a shadow of the player he was when it was neck and neck with us in City and in the Champions League. So, I'd love him to come back, and I don't know if going the AFCON might be good for him. Being the leader for Senegal and getting them to a quarter or a semi and being the leader on the pitch and the man that they go to, whether that'll do his confidence a boost and he can come back better. If not, though, mate, it's been a while now. He's not been the same player that we're used to. And don't get me wrong, the standards he set were massive, but he's been quite far off that now for about a season and a half nearly.
I believe that him, Firmino, and Salah all have the same contract expiration date, if I'm not mistaken, and that is 2022.
Yeah.
So, Jay, I'll pose this to you: Is Mane for replacement?
It's one of them, mate. I love what he's done for the club, and to be honest, before last season, I preferred Mane over Salah. I felt like he created more. I know Salah always gets the numbers, but for me, Mane was the better footballer. But I'd do a cheeky one where Mbappe's contract runs out in January. I'd say to Paris I'll say 70, 80 million in Mane. Is it time? I don't know. But I do think we definitely need another forward in there to at least challenge, because at the minute there's only Jota who's challenging the front three. So one of them is the only one that's going to go out the squad. So I do definitely think we need more backup. But he gave me we're nowhere near the level that them front three have been. So for me, we definitely need something. And if we can be a bit cheeky and say to Paris, look, Mbappe's going to go on a free anyway, is 60, 70 million and Mane, would they take it?
Yeah. They turned down a crazy sum from Madrid in the summer. So I'd be surprised, but I think posing that.
Mate, I'm not saying, you know what I mean? That's probably a dream in the win, but it's one of them you don't ask, you don't get. And I don't think that has ever happened, by the way. His wages would be ridiculous, but I think I'm just dreaming a bit.
So, and let's keep that thought process going. Owen, Mane, keep him around, replace. Where do you see his future?
I really don't know what's going to happen with Sadio Mane. I think all the talks about Mo Salah and his contract scenario has been very, very quiet on what's going to happen with Mane. Jay just said there about a potential swap with PSG, but I can't see Mbappe coming to Liverpool now, because I think his heart's set on Real Madrid. I really do. I just can't see him going anywhere other than there in the summer. But going back to Mane again, I'd say he's coming now into his 30s. I think it's very, very worrying that I think the best of Sadio Mane could be gone, and we might need to get rid of him and think about offloading him before kind of it's too late. And we're kind of looking at a player who hasn't really been performing in like 3 years. And then that's very, very not a good look for someone who wants to buy a player like Sadio Mane. So, yeah, it's a difficult one for sure.
Yeah, Mbappe, he sees this, doesn't want the sunny shores of Madrid. He wants to come up to Liverpool. Louis, Mane, his future, your assessment of him.
I think a lot of this, because I know we've got Welshie in the chat, and he's definitely a staunch FSG outer. And I think a lot of this sort of comes quite nicely into that whole conversation with FSG and their want to invest in this squad. And it's been on a knife edge these last couple of years. Obviously, the transfer window before, we got Thiago, Jota and Tsimikas, which was a very underrated transfer window, I think, mainly because of our injury problems in that season. But they've all bared fruit this year. But this season, obviously, we didn't sign anyone really. And with a few players starting to hit their 30s and Mane arguably declining, we're getting to that point where we do need almost a small-scale restructure, and we do need a good 3 or 4 additions to the team. And whether FSG are going to be willing to do that, or whether they're going to again be quite cheap, I don't know. I mean, I'm not FSG out, I'm not FSG in. I'm quite middle grounded on that, but I think this certainly plays into a lot of that.
I'm interested in your guys' optimism and beliefs on anything happening in January, because obviously before, I don't think anything could happen where a player could come in and feature for Chelsea, but for the Chelsea match. But will anything happen in January in any of your guys' eyes? Yes or no? Jay, I'll toss it to you first.
I don't see it, mate, to be honest. No, they're probably going to come back with that type of thing. It's hard to sign players in January. Last time I think we did any substantial business was probably the best we ever did, which was Van Dijk. If we pull off something like that, then happy days. But no, mate, I'll be honest, I don't see anyone coming in January, to be honest. If you look at last season when we didn't have a centre-half to our name and we didn't bring anyone in but Kabak, I think that tells you everything. We're second in the league now. So if you look at where we were and didn't bring a centre-half in when we were dying for one, there's no way they're going to invest now when we're still challenging for Champions League. So no, I could more or less guarantee we won't.
He is the most forgettable man ever, but Ben Davies, no? Was he not brought in to be the zero appearance?
What was the point, mate? He went on a stadium tour and got off.
Or they might flip a cheeky bit of profit on him. And you know, optimism on a January move.
I don't think it's going to happen at all. I think if something was going to happen, it would have happened by now. I just can't believe we didn't do something in the summer with FSG. Everyone who follows me knows I'm a massive FSG outer. I think we've grown past them. I think we need new owners who are going to kind of share the same optimism that we have at the minute. And I just think, we definitely need a restructure in terms of a few players need to go, a few players need to come in, and a few changes definitely need to be made, in my opinion. And whether people like it or not, I think that's the truth, in my opinion, and it might hurt some people.
With the return of the January window, they were a bit tiresome towards the end of the summer window. FSG out, FSG in. I'm excited to resume the debates. But Louis, I'm interested in your optimism for a January move, and how important one would be if it was to come off.
I know we are the LFC transfer room, but I can't see anything happening, in all honesty. So there goes our views. There goes our views. No, I'm only joking. There's loads of players on the way. They're on the plane at the moment. We're tracking them. They're inbound. It's difficult, not only because FSG wants to overspend on anybody, but as Owen said, or whether it was in regards to Mbappe or Jared Bowen, sorry, that's who. People aren't going to be willing to let them go at this time of year. It would take an audacious bid, and we don't have the owners who would go out and make audacious bids. And to be honest, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. You can argue that we need to sign someone and maybe it is worth the risk, but I don't think... I think if you want to get Jared Bowen in January, I think you've got way more than 40 million. I think you're looking at 60, 70, and that's like ridiculous territory. And as much as, Owen and Welshie will probably team up on me on this one as FSG outers, you can just say that, well, we need to spend money to ultimately win, and that's ultimately what we want to do. We want to win the league, we want to win the Champions League, we want to win everything. But to an extent, I think there's ways of going about it, and I don't want to spend the way that Man City spend. I don't want to spend the way that Man City spend, and maybe that's just me being a idealist and a romanticist. But I feel that there's a certain, not morality, but just a certain way to do things. And we're the only team that stood between Man City and turning the Premier League into Liga and a glorified Farmers League, and we don't get any praise for that.
If 1920 Liverpool don't win the title, we're looking at this could be a 5th straight, if I'm not mistaken, title for City. Right? Yeah, because they had 2 before that. They would have won.
Yeah, I mean they said save football that year. They asked Man City to save football that year when we won the league, and they've got to reap what they've sown now.
So we're having a lot of big transfer summer, January debates. We'll save those for other days when you're the half-hour mark. I kind of want to wrap up with what happens next on the 2nd with Chelsea versus Liverpool. Changes for the lineup. I mean, hopefully Thiago's back. I mean, if Thiago returns, I mean, he's a very easy just insert him into the lineup. Jay, is there anything else that you foresee for that really big match at Stamford Bridge?
Judging on, to be honest, big games. Klopp loves playing Firmino. I wouldn't be surprised to see Mane drop out of the front 3. Or Jota. I wouldn't drop Jota myself, but I know Klopp always seems to trust Mane. But personally, obviously, if Thiago's back, I'd 100% have him in the midfield instead of Ox. And personally, I'd probably put Bobby back on the front 3 and put Jota on the left instead of Mane. I just think Mane needs a bit of a kick up the arse. And at the minute, he's not getting it because there's no one to challenge him because obviously Firmino's been injured. So for me, they're the only 2 changes I'll probably make, to be honest. Bobby back in for Mane and Thiago, obviously, all being well if he's fit.
Does not having Mane for the next month due to AFCON change that in Klopp's eyes or your eyes? Because Mane, after that match, you say you maybe need to kick him up the ass, but if you don't have him, does that really benefit you have that little kick?
Well, yeah, because he needs to know when he comes back. You're not a guaranteed starter just because of what you've done in the past. 100%.
I mean, look what happened to Robertson when he got dropped shortly.
Yeah, and even Jota, mate, when Jota weren't a nailed-on starter, he was coming in and scoring goals, but he weren't starting games. You had to keep doing it to get into the team. Bobby got injured, and then he's coming on the back of that and been brilliant. So, no, you can't go on past performances to say, oh, you still get a game when you go on the AFCON. If you're not playing well, you're not playing well. It doesn't matter where you're going or what you've done in the past. It goes off what you need now, and we definitely need 3 points against Chelsea if we've got any single chance of winning the league. So for me, no, I'd drop him myself, mate, personally.
Owen, do you agree with Jay? Have any other changes you want to see for that Chelsea match?
No, I think you play Mane in this game. Say to Mane, come on, you've got to give us your all for this one game, then go off to AFCON, and hopefully he'll come in big and just get us a win. I'm really hoping that's the case. I think I definitely would like to see Jota, Firmino, and Salah because I think we saw it at Old Trafford and it worked so well. But I just don't think you can take that risk with all the games coming up. I think you need to protect Firmino and Jota as much as possible and give one of them a rest. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to do that right before they go.
I don't dislike Mane, by the way. Just so people know, I'm just saying for this particular game, I wouldn't start him.
That's very valid. And Louis, for Chelsea, wrap up that bit of discussion.
I think we battered them. Despite what we've seen here today, I think we turn up for the big important ones. Not to say this game wasn't important, obviously, but for the massive sides and the highlight games of the day, we turn up and, the likes of Salah, Mane and Firmino will be absolutely up for this game and gagging to make a real impact. So get Thiago back in the team if he's all good and well. Thiago, Fabinho, and then either Henderson or Keita. I mean, Keita's done himself no favours tonight, so I don't want to see anyone crying if he's not in the starting 11 for Chelsea. He had his chance to again show that he deserves to be starting, and he didn't do that at all today. So, but no, I think we get a positive result against Chelsea.
Well, that's going to do it for our streamer today. About half hour after that one. Really appreciate you guys coming on after that one to talk about it. Both small like microcosms of the match, more general things. But that's going to do it for our stream here today. Make sure to follow all of ourselves with our tags here in the tweet. You're going to be able to go head over to our profiles, drop a follow for us, and follow the LFC Transfer Room on all the social medias, especially subscribe on YouTube. A lot of content coming as we bring ourselves into the new year. But for myself, Jack, for Louis, Jay, and Owen, that's going to do it for